But first, we interview Blog Talk Radio royalty, the number one comedy blog talk show on Blog Talk Radio. We welcome to the show Dr. Blogstein. Welcome to Radio Exposed.
Thank you. I'm very disappointed that I don't get both Tinky and Louie tonight. Louie, you are dead to me.
He's dead to me, too. I mean, the restraining order is one thing, like there's kids and he's got things and his pants are off, but he is dead to me. Like there are things, lifestyle changes that he could have made. So how's it going?
It's going great with me. Which one of the two of you is trying to get rid of a bunch of empty beer bottles?
That is me, Tinky.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know somebody who will take them and probably pick them up.
I would love that. Yeah,
yeah.
Send him my way. Like
he probably comes around a few times a week. It's the garbage man.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Yeah. The problem is he won't display them the way I want them to. It belongs in the apartment of a college kid.
It belongs in the recycling hub. Probably.
Yeah. If I go to Michigan, I can get 10 cents a piece for these things. But yeah, it's very sentimental to me. You know, I hope that some guy with a basement bar takes it, but you bring up good points. So, Dr. Blogstein, it's the Dr. Blogstein Radio Happy Hour. So
that is correct.
How did this start? It was 2007. How did this get about going?
It was 2007, and it was, someone brought to my attention that there was a new website, a brand new website called Blog Talk Radio. You can host your own radio show, and it was always a dream of mine. I was hosting this show in my brain my entire life, so finally there was a way for me to get it out to everybody.
All right, and now before then, because it seemed like, I listened to your first show, you had the Blog Talk Radio CEO on, and it seemed like you already had a very well-developed plan. Did you do anything before then, or was Blog Talk Radio your first radio go?
The Blog Talk Radio was my first radio go. I decided probably in January of that year, planned about a month about what I wanted to do, and then went for it in February of that year. But this was my first time in radio, period, whatsoever. I had an internship in college in the promotions department of a radio station, but that's the closest I came to radio.
All right, yeah, I had an internship with promotions, too, in a Chicago radio station. But I was going to school to be, in broadcasting in 2003. That's when we started this show, and then we found out that Blog Talk Radio was so easy to do. I'm helping friends with their podcasts, and they're like, "Hey, you're in radio, help me out." And I'm like, "Why am I not doing this?" And that's how this started a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's great. What they provide is amazing.
I love the MP3 that you get that within like 5-10 minutes of your show ending, so I can start editing that and making that into like a future demo. That's like my favorite part about this.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable what they provide.
Now, your first show, you guys said several times that you guys are going to be the number one Blog Talk Radio show. Like, did you kind of know that coming off the bat, or was that just like you guys being cocky right away?
Both. I knew it because I listened to what they had there, and I knew we were better than everybody else there. And I also knew that if I kept telling people that we were going to be number one, a lot of people would stick around to see if we made true on the promise. So it was both. Now,
you've been in Blog Talk Radio for a long time. The whole, like, where you are positioned on that screen, that is indicative of the rankings you're getting? Like, is it like total clicks? Or is there some type of other, like, algorithm involved? Because we've been 2 and we've been 30. We've kind of been kind of in between there, but we've never cracked the one spot. Like, do you know how that works?
I don't know. I know it is. It's a algorithm that they've come up with. I believe it combines weekly with lifetime hits, but I don't know the exact formula. But it's not straightforward number of hits per week. It's a combination of what you do this week, what you've done lifetime, but I don't know the exact algorithm. I think it's like Blog Talk Radio special sauce.
Yeah, it's one thing. I emailed them and no answer. They directed me to their.
They'll never tell you. They'll never tell you.
Yeah, here's a link to our frequently asked questions. Like, well, I asked that question pretty, convincingly to you, and you have not answered that. So, all right, you're your first co-host. Like, you've had a couple different co-hosts. start us off with Jane, and then how did you bridge that gap to Colette?
Well, okay. Well, it started with Jane. Jane, I knew. I worked with her in another job. I thought she was great, but she had a lot of things going on. She also wrote for magazines. She edited magazines at the same time. So she eventually got too busy and dropped me. So I moved on to Dangerous Lee. Dangerous Lee was my co-host probably for the longest tenure of the run of the Radio Happy Hour. Dangerous Lee first came on as a guest. She did a urban advice column in some newspaper in Michigan. We had her on as a guest to, take calls and give people advice. She was funny. We started bringing her on as a guest co-host when Jane couldn't make it. Then when Jane ditched us altogether, Dangerous Lee became permanent until I had a huge fight with her back in September of last year. And then Colette, who also used to come on every year, once or twice a year as a guest because she's the lead singer of a band. She then became the new co-host.
All right. And that was Edible Red with Colette, right?
Oh, yeah. She's fantastic.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of their stuff. When I started getting into, Blog Talk Radio and trying to sample stuff, I listened to you guys, and then I listened, that's a band. I should listen to that. And, yeah, her stuff's pretty good. I like the theme song you guys did later with her.
Yeah, she was great. Yeah, exactly. We had a great theme song. We had a band once, a cover band for the Beatles, and we had them make us a theme song because I wanted a theme song. And that was our theme song for many, many years until Colette became the co-host, and she's a musician. So she said, how about I make you a new theme song? And she made a great theme song.
I wish we can. Well, we have several musical guests. I should ask one of them to do us something because the one we did, it's some unknown band that showed up at a gig that a friend's band was doing, and that was the CD he was passing out of his trunk. So all right, that's a weird song. We'll take it. Yeah, we should look into that. Now, quick question.
There's plenty that rhymes with Tinky, and there's plenty that rhymes with Louie.
You bring up great points. So I listened to the first couple of shows and then the last shows. How did the equipment change from the first show to the last show? What were you using to sign into Blog Talk Radio?
Oh, when I first started, I was on a telephone, and when I ended, I had a whole setup with a board and a microphone and headphones and everything. Yeah,
right now I'm using Skype. I'm on a Walmart headphone mic set thing. A pretty decent computer. I'll give myself that, but I've heard podcasts and I'm wow, you either sound horrible or you sound awesome. Why? I need to buy equipment, don't I? What was the stuff you ended up with?
Well, I ended up with a soundboard, a professional microphone. I think. Well, as I progressed and the quality of the content got better, it frustrated me to no end that the quality of sound was so sucky. So I did whatever I could to make it sound as good as possible. And towards the end there, I got what I wanted. If I were to come back again and the next time I do this, I would like all my co-hosts to sound as good as I sounded towards the end, because the others still came in through Skype or telephone. I would want the entire show to sound as good as I sounded.
See, I would love that. That was the one drawback that kept us from doing it as soon as we did, is both me and Louie were in broadcasting school, we have the experience, but only one of us could sound at least this good. The other had to be on a cell phone or on a secondary Skype that can get kind of digitally skipped or kind of lost in the background of stuff, sound effects. You guys ran into that problem, right, with sound effects?
Oh, Tinky, it kept me up at night. The fact that we were producing such good stuff and funny material, and we had great guests, and it sounded so horrible that I used to spend entire night trying to figure out how to get the quality of the sound better, because I wanted the quality of the sound to match the quality of the content, and it had me pulling my hair out.
Yeah, I work at a radio station right now, and I asked the IT people, how can I make this better? And he's Blog Talk Radio? The advantages of having Blog Talk Radio still outweigh that one disadvantage.
Oh yeah. You can't do this with anything else. It's not that easy. Everything, yeah, you're right. You can. It is not this easy with anything else. The only drawback is the quality, the crispness of the sound. But I got a little closer, and I think I think I know what to do if I were to do it again. So I think I could bring it a little bit higher, to a higher level. But you're right. Aside from that, which is a big thing, but aside from that, there's no place else like Blog Talk Radio.
So have you given it a thought to maybe give it another go?
There are. I see things on the news, and I wish desperately that I had a radio show. So it comes up often in my brain. But I stopped because I got so entirely burnt out. I was stupid. And don't make the same mistake that I did. I did it for 3 years and 3 months, once a week. And there was not one Tuesday night in those 3 years and 3 months where I did not have an original broadcast out. And that's insane. I did not give myself a break. I wore myself out. And it was... And I didn't know I was wearing, I kind of knew I was wearing myself out, but I did not know that I had totally worn myself out until the middle of the last show when I just totally ran out of steam. I was like a car on the highway, and I ran out of gas right there, and I couldn't go any further. I decided in the middle of the last show that this was the last show. I did not know that was going to happen. I had guests planned for a month ahead of time, and I canceled them all. It was right then and there that I ran out of gas.
That was actually my next question was, I was listening to your last show, and earlier in the show you were saying, yeah, next week we'll do this, and, hey, we should probably come up with some plan to do this in one of the coming shows. And then just kind of out of nowhere, you're like, maybe I'm just not going to do this show again. And, Colette laughed, and then you just kind of kept hinting at it, you know what, I'm not doing this show again. And then they kind of he's serious.
Yeah, it was probably one of the most real moments of the entire show. I just ran out of steam right then and there. You heard it happen, and that was it. I couldn't do it after that.
Now, one question that I have had several people, when I told people that I was going to have you on, they're like, I need this right away. Ask him this. This should be the number one question you ask him. And I have a list right here. All right, your guess. You had on, let's see, you had Allison Brie, let's see, Bill Romanowski, Vander Holyfield, Ernest Borgnine, Dustin Diamond. How did you book the guests? What was your guest booking method?
Well, I do publicity as a profession, so I've made a lot of friends along the way and called in a lot of favors.
Okay. Yeah, we have some local band hookups, so we're getting a lot of Chicago bands, and we're trying to get comedians and stuff like that. And when I saw your show, you have this resume here, whoa, I want these people.
Yeah, well, you know better than anyone. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah. So who are some of your favorite guests that you have interviewed?
Some of my favorite guests. I hate myself because every time I'm on a show, people ask me that, and I never have an answer. And last night I was thinking about doing the show, and I'm thinking, all right, he's going to ask me this, let me have an answer. I don't have an answer. But I have favorite moments, I have favorite shows. I don't really have favorite guests. Probably my favorite show was the one when Candace Cameron came on, DJ Tanner from Full House.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had her on, and a friend of mine is the webmaster for Dave Coulier, who played Joey from Full House. So I asked him if he can get Joey to call in to surprise Candace Cameron. So he called in and disguised his voice, and it was just a funny moment. It was a funny moment. That kind of stuff. My favorite guests were usually those that were not the famous ones. I had a guy who was quarantined in the hospital he had, what disease did he have? What do you get when you get the mosquito bite? Not malaria. Doesn't matter. He was quarantined in the hospital in Australia, and he was stuck there for months on end. So instead of feeling sorry for himself, he started making these rap videos, and it caught fire. It became a viral sensation in Australia. I saw them. He was hilarious, so I had him call in from his hospital room. it was that kind of stuff that was my favorite. The non-famous, the quirky, the guy who invented an app called Run P, where it's an app where it tells you the exact time during a movie where it's good to go to the bathroom when the plot slows down or the action slows down, and it tells you when to go, how long you have, and what you missed when you were peeing.
Okay. Yeah, that seems fun. Well, I'm going to look that up, actually. I'm going to write some of that down. Now, here's a question I have, and I listened to the last couple of shows, and I've done some research, and I still don't know what Onision is. What does this person do, and why was he so, big on your show?
Onision, well, that's there's another reason why I stopped doing the show. I don't know what Onision was. Colette, my co-host, loved Onision. He made some kind of, he was a whack job YouTube celebrity. I don't know what he was famous for, I watched several of his videos. I didn't get it. Colette loved him. And a lot of people loved him. He gave us one of our, I think the largest live audience that we ever had was when Onision came on. And apparently it was his first ever live interview. Although, who's clamoring for a live interview with Onision? I didn't get it. But it was that could have been one of my least favorite shows, and I think it was like the second or third to last one. I didn't get it. I didn't understand him, and I hated that show.
It was a hard listen. He's a difficult guy to work with, and if I knew anything that he did, I would maybe even try to get him on myself. But I still don't know why he's at all on YouTube.
Neither do I. And if it weren't for Colette and the fact that she loved him so much and worked so hard to get him on the show, I never would have had him on. I did it for her, and I hated every second of it.
Now, besides the Annie and Burl, and have you ever tested out any of the other Blog Talk Radio shows? Did you ever give a sample? And what are your favorites if you have?
Annie and Burl, they're good. Beyond them, I don't know.
All right, the answer would be no.
The answer would be no. Do you have any that you recommend?
There are some tough listens. I listen to pretty much all the top 10, and some of them are good. Some of them are pretty much just prank calling other Blog Talk Radio shows, and for some reason that gets a liking. I haven't understood that. So, one question I have.
See, that's why I knew that I was going to end up being number one. I mean, I heard the rest.
Yeah, I started sampling the rest. I didn't even really care until all of a sudden someone pointed out we were number 2. How the hell did we get to number 2 already on comedy? But then I checked out the entire first page, and some of them weren't even comedy. One was they're talking about the death penalty the whole time. How can you just unclick the comedy box, because none of that was funny unless you're trying to be like Andy Kaufman over here.
Yeah.
But for the most, there were 5 different just Blog Talk call-in shows where they just call other Blog Talk shows. This might be funny to you in Alabama, but it's really come on, a little substance here, people.
Yeah, I'm with you. Some had moments, but the moments were few and far between. Now,
by the time you started in February of 2007, when did you get to number 1?
I don't remember. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but it took a little while. I'll tell you, it took a little while. Plus, we also had we had number 1, then we lost number 1. Nick Tapala, who is a well-known comedian, had a show for about 6 months, and he brought in so many people. It was a real boon for the comedy category.